Hi everyone, welcome to my channel Bibbity Bobbity Books. My name is Ellie and this is going to be a vlog where I make my husband read the ACOTAR series. So, a little bit of context. So, ACOTAR, I'm sure you already know what it is. It's a hugely popular young adult fantasy series. The first book is called A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is why it's shortened to ACOTAR. They're written by Sarah J. Maas, and I really enjoy this series. I've only read it once, and I read it during the pandemic, and it was actually what got me back into reading because I hadn't read anything for a long time. And then I just decided to pick this series up on a whim, and I absolutely raced through them and became obsessed with it. Slightly nervous to go back and revisit this series because you know when you have that experience, and then I'm just really nervous to go back and read it again, especially because I'm going to be making you read it too. So I'm like super nervous that you're going to be very judgmental.
It's like if you've got a song that you like, or a song that you used to really like and you haven't heard it for ages, and then you're talking to somebody and you're like, oh yeah, listen to this song, and then you put it on and then you're sitting there and you're like...
cringing inside. I feel
like,
like
okay,
that's going to be...
It was good at the time.
Yeah, I feel like that's very much going to be my experience, but I'm kind of excited anyway. But yeah, what inspired me to kind of do this and to force you to read this series is because we are going to a ball called the Starfall Ball, which is happening very soon, and it's in London, and it's in the National History Museum, and it's all based around the ACOTAR series. So it's going to be heavily themed to the book series. There's going to be characters from the books there, and I just thought it looks like so much fun. I've always wanted to go to a ball, so I just kind of fairly spontaneously bought the tickets. And obviously you're coming with me as my plus one, and my husband, of course I want you there. And yeah, I just figured it might be weird for you to go if you haven't read the books, considering it's such a heavily themed like event.
I'll just be a muggle.
A muggle.
Although I feel like I'm probably not going to be the only like husband or boyfriend attending who is like no idea what's going on. Because am I right in assuming that the book series has a like largely female fan base?
Yes, definitely.
So I feel like there'll be a lot of plus ones being taken along that's kind of like maybe not into the books.
Anyway, so we are going to be doing this vlog. We're going to be getting your thoughts and feelings as you read through this series. And I just wanted to start off by kind of like asking you about what you think this series is about and if you've got any expectations going in. Because obviously you've heard me talking about it, and you must have like just picked up some stuff just from... because it's been out for a long time. Oh, by the way, this is going to be filled with spoilers. I feel like it's probably not going to be an issue because I feel like a lot of people have already read this. If they were interested in this series, you've probably already read it already. But yeah, it's going to be filled with spoilers because we're going to be talking about the stuff that happens in the books. But anyway, what are your expectations? Have you got any idea?
I mean, it's as far as I'm aware, it's mostly fairy porn. That's my understanding. That's what I'm going with. Right, okay. First book.
First book is
Court of Thorns and Roses.
Yeah, Court of Thorns and Roses.
I feel like I remember when you first read it, and I might be getting mixed up with a different book, but I feel like I have it in my head that that at the time you were saying that it was kind of like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but I might be wrong. I might be getting mixed up with something else.
I mean, I feel like the title, A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense. Okay, so I've got that, I guess, sort of right. And it's to do with fae, magical people. I have a feeling that it's kind of like, is it like urban fantasy kind of thing? Or partly, but then, is it kind of like main character is like from the real world and then like, oh, fairies exist and then I'm now in this fairy world and something, or is it not?
I mean, I don't know whether to tell you things or not.
No, I guess I'll find out. But that's my guess, is that that's what it is. It's kind of like normal real world, modern day kind of thing. Main character who is Farra, I think is her name.
Yes.
Which isn't a very normal mortal name, so maybe she is already Fae, I don't know. Or maybe she like thinks she's mortal, but she discovers, that kind of thing. But we'll see. And then I think, again, from bits that I've passively absorbed, I get the impression that in the first book it's kind of like, here's the main character, here's the love interest, oh, he's kind of toxic, blah. And then in the second book, it's like, oh yeah, we're acknowledging he's toxic, he goes away, and then someone else is now the love interest, and he's great. I feel like I've just passively absorbed that. Is that accurate?
I mean, I think it's hard not to absorb certain spoilers around this series.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is refreshing, because I feel like a lot of, I don't know, I feel like a lot of like, I don't know, Beauty and the Beast retelling or Hayley and Stephanie retelling type of things, like sometimes can have quite toxic themes that are like romanticized, and it's kind of like, oh, it's really, I don't know, passionate or whatever, and really it's like, if you're actually looking at the facts of what's going on and how people are behaving, it's kind of like, this is messed up, this isn't a good message to be sending. So if that is the case, if it's kind of like, in the second book, it's like, oh, actually, no, we're saying that the first dude was bad, then that's good.
I definitely think there's going to be lots to discuss.
Oh no. Does it have a lot of problematic messages?
I'm not saying anything until we get in it. I feel like when we get to the spoiler chat, we can get into the meat of it.
I have a question for you, actually. I'm going to flip this on you.
Oh, okay. I'm not prepared.
Disclaimer, and I am open-minded, and I'm open-minded to enjoying this. But if I was to put money on it, my guess would be that I will not enjoy these books.
I was going to ask you that. Do you think you're going to enjoy them?
I don't think I'm going to enjoy them. I'm sure there'll be aspects of them that I do enjoy, but I think overall it's not my thing, and I'm probably going to be very critical of it. So my question for you is, like, are you prepared for me to tear it to shreds? If that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm fully expecting you to tear it to shreds, and I'm kind of nervous because I don't know if I'm prepared for it. I don't know if my heart can take it. But no, I think
this is kind of my question really, is like, how, do I need to try it? Do I need to put on kiddie gloves?
No, absolutely not. I feel like you should just be open and honest, and I'm excited to hear what you've got to say about it.
Okay.
Because I think you're going to have a lot to say about it.
Sounds fun.
So yeah, this is going to be so much fun. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I feel like I was going to ask you something and I've forgotten now.
My worry as well, though, really is that I don't know if I will get through. I don't know how far I'll get through it in time, because the ball is like 3 weeks. No, it's,
yeah. I feel like we should start reading the first book, and if it's going quite slow, I feel like you could probably just like have like the highlights from the first book and then go into the second book. I feel like the second book is where a lot of like change happens and you find out a lot more about the world, and I just feel like you kind of need to get to the second book, otherwise you won't get to understand a lot of the references that are probably going to be there for the ball, because I even think the Starfall Ball, I think that might be in the second book.
Yeah.
So
okay, and it's not just that you're trying to get me to skim past the first book because it's bad.
No, I enjoyed it. I had a fun time with the first.
It's not. I know that you've said, like, I know that Court of Mist and Fury, the second book, is like your
that's my
favorite book. You know, so yeah. The other thing that might be worth mentioning is I'm not a big reader. I tend to go more for audiobooks because I prefer to be absorbing a book while I can do something else. And I find it easier to concentrate on a story if I'm kind of like, if I'm occupied, if I'm doing something with my hands or whatever. So I generally prefer audiobooks, and especially because I can listen to them in the car and things like that. So I won't be physically reading this, I'll be doing an audiobook. Is that a problem?
No, it's not a problem, but I can just foresee there being some situations where the audiobook might be super cringe.
Oh yeah.
Super, super cringe, but
I can't wait.
I'm so excited. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun. Alright, so there we have it. Let us go and get you to read A Court of Thorns and Roses. We'll speak to you when we've got an update. Bye for now.
Bye.
This is Uncle.
Graphic audio. A movie in your mind.
Okay, so we have listened to the first chapter of A Court of Thorns and Roses, and look at all these roses that I've made. I've made 4 of them. They're actually like really addictive to make. And look, they like move and stuff. It's really satisfying. Like the little petals. I just broke it. But like the leaves and stuff, like they like, you can move them.
Oh no!
Anyway, we finished chapter 1. So what are your initial impressions of the book?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Not too much has happened. It's kind of just been scene setting, as you'd expect from chapter 1. It has very like fairy tale vibes to me. It's kind of like living in a little hut in the woods kind of thing, and like main character Farra like being the sole hunter to, you know, sole provider for her family of her dad and 2 sisters. The 2 sisters are very mean to her, and it feels very like Wicked Stepsisters type vibes, which is like a little bit frustrating. I wish she would kind of stand up to them more and not just be a doormat, especially considering she's been hunting alone in the woods for the last 8 years. So you think that she'd be kind of tough and quite mentally strong. You know, you'd think that she'd not stand for that, but
It did read a lot more over the top than I remember it, to be fair. Like Nesta and Elaine are like so like mean, and
even just to the, like as an example, just kind of being like, she comes back from hunting, you know, bringing the food that's keeping them alive and the, you know, the pelts that are going to give them some money so they can literally survive, and then like her sister's like, "Ooh, you smell." It's like, come on, dude.
it is a bit unrealistic, isn't it, when you think of like what a desperate situation they're in, and then they're just like having to go at Farra, even though she's the one that's providing for them.
Yeah, and I think it's the implication is that they were once more wealthy, and they've like fallen into the situation that they're in, and that the sisters are like in denial a little bit.
If you can hear a sound, I'm really sorry. That's our cat.
Oh yeah, he doesn't really know how to use a litter tray properly. So
Just brushes the plastic.
rather than like burying what he's done with the litter, he just kind of leaves it and then goes to the front plastic of the litter tray that's got like a lid on it, and he just wipes the plastic for ages. Bless him, he's a bit special.
Anyway, so Farra, is taking a load of rubbish from her sisters.
Yeah. But I'm assuming that she will, I don't know, that will change somehow. She'll have, you know, some level of confrontation with them or something. You know, I feel like we're going to start from here so that we've got somewhere else to go and have it more obvious what the difference is from A to B. So
one thing that I quite liked in it that I'd forgotten from when I read it the first time was that Farra has a relationship with someone in the beginning of this book, like a adult consensual sexual relationship with someone, and I quite like that that's included, and it's not like included with any kind of like this is weird or anything. It's just like these are 2 adults that have a need and they are able to fulfill that for each other, and they're both happy with that sort of like situation and stuff. And I quite like that, because I feel like a lot of the time in traditional fairy tales you have like a virgin heroine, and then it's this like big deal of like their first time, and the whole like idea of your first time having sex is really like, I don't know,
sacred or
sacred.
A massive deal or whatever.
Or like glamorized as well, that
Yeah.
your first time is like this like, I don't know, world shifting thing. I don't know. So I quite like the fact that she's already had experience before we're going to get to, you know, the romance within this story. So I like that was included. Yeah, we've just got to the bit where the big bad has come, I guess.
Was that an intentional big bad wolf pun?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, a big old wolf that is actually a fae in wolf form has come to the hut to be like, you killed my mate and we need a life in payment. And she's like, oh no. And then he's like, well, you don't have to die, you can come and be a prisoner. So that's where things are going. Beauty and the Beast retelling.
Yeah, so it's basically just been set up. But yeah, you enjoying it so far?
Yeah.
So far, so good, people. So far, so good. Anyway, we are going to head off now. And I guess we'll catch up with you once we've read a few more chapters.
Yep.
Lots more to come. Bye for now. Hi everyone, so it's been a few days since we last checked in and we are about to go on a drive because we're going down to Hampshire to see my family. So it's a good like 3.5 hour drive. So we're probably going to get through a decent amount of book on the journey. But we wanted to just quickly pop on here first and give you an update because we're about halfway through the first book. So we've made a lot of progress, I feel.
Done well.
And yeah, so I wanted to just check in and see how you're finding it. What are your thoughts?
I'm enjoying it. It's like I said to Ellie, like it's not my thing. Like it's not. I wouldn't have thought I would go out of my way to read it. It's just not my thing. But like I'm not enjoying it. Like it's enjoyable. I like listening to it.
Yeah, it's not something that you would choose like out of your own volition to go and like put on and listen to, but having it on, like you're still enjoying it.
And I think because my expectations were fairly low, I've probably enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I thought it was going to be a lot more cheesy than it is so far, at least.
What are your thoughts on Tamlin?
So this is kind of like metagaming because I am aware that people don't like him, or at least that like I'm aware that he doesn't continue to be the love interest, and that I think people don't like him. So I'm a little bit biased in some ways, but like, so because I've been looking out for, reasons not to like him. But aside from being a little bit edgy and a little bit kind of like so far, he's not really done anything bad. Well, apart from the whole weird mountain ritual thing and then the biting thing.
Yeah, that was a little bit.
But like he was
much.
possessed by some kind of, I don't know, spirit thing from the sounds of things. So can't really hold him that accountable for that. It sounds like more of a magical-y thing. But yeah, aside from that, he seems all right. He just seems a bit edgy and a bit kind of like moody and brooding.
So in terms of the plot, where we're up to at the moment is obviously Farra has gone to the spring court. She's been staying with Tamlin for a while. She's been finding out a little bit about the world. There's obviously been a little bit of romance. We had that ritual on the mountaintop, this like spring ritual thing. And we've had our first introduction to a character called Rhysand.
Oh yeah.
What are your impressions of him?
Again, like it's hard to be, it's strange because I'm aware of him and I'm fairly sure that he's like the love interest in the second book and probably the third, I guess. I don't know. Which I'm surprised by because like all we've seen of him is just that he came in and was just kind of a bit of a bully, and just kind of doesn't really seem to have any redeeming qualities. But it sounds like he's working for like the baddie.
He's been described as Amarantha's whore.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that he's like under some kind of control, whether it be like he's being kind of magically compelled or whether it's just he's in a position where he has to, be a bit of a dick. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know. So I'm kind of like assuming that there's going to be some reason why he was acting like that and like, oh, he's a good guy really or whatever. But we'll see. But that's kind of like, I wouldn't have thought of any of that if I wasn't already sort of aware that he's a love interest in the future. So, but I am curious to see what his deal is and why he was acting the way he was, and what will, how that will turn out that he ends up being the love interest that people are more rooting for versus Tamlin. I
feel like it might be a while before you get your answers.
Okay, that's fine.
Anyway, we need to go. So yeah, this is just a quick update, but we shall catch you up at some point. Obviously, we're going to listen to a lot in the car, so yeah, at some point over the weekend, over the next few days, we will catch you up and hopefully we'll have finished the book, the first book.
Yep.
Can I just say quickly, whilst I'm away from Danny, that I am finding this reading experience so strange, knowing all that I know about this series. Like, it's been so cringe reading about Farra and Tamlin. Like, I'm just like, there's just so much ick there, and it's just been really interesting going back and just seeing like a few little hints at Tamlin's true nature. Like, there was the moment at the spring festival where he sent Lucian to like control her drinking to make sure she wasn't drinking too much fairy wine, which I get because obviously it like has a big effect on humans, but still there's just like a little bit of controllingness there. There's been a lot of moments where he's like really struggled to keep his claws in and keep his anger in check. And there was a line where he was talking to Farra and then he was like, I just want you like to stay in where I know that you're safe. So again, that idea that he wants to just put her on a pedestal and like not let her do anything, basically, just so that he knows that she's safe and so that he can just keep her and keep her safe and just, you know, not let her actually live. So there's been like a few little things, but yeah, it's been so weird like going back and listening to their romance story. But yeah, I'm just so excited to get to the point where we get under the mountain, because I feel like a lot of stuff happens, and I feel like up until this halfway mark it reads like a very straightforward Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I just feel like it goes off on like a crazy journey from there as soon as we get under the mountain. So I think Danny is going to be a little bit surprised at the direction that this goes in, and yeah, I'm just excited to get under the mountain. That moment where Rhys comes and confronts Tamlin, and then Tamlin just stands there and doesn't do anything while Farra is like getting her mind like read by Rhys, was such an interesting scene to read. Especially because there was like moments where he noticed that she was in the room and stuff, and then there was a moment where he like showed a little sign of like excitement and then like pulled himself back into check again and like put on his like evil Rhysand mask. I don't know, it's so exciting. Anyway, I can't wait to get to the part where we're under the mountain. It's gonna be so much fun. Anyway, I better go, but yes, I'll speak to you later. Just like that, we are back in Norwich after our weekend down in Hampshire. Had such a nice weekend. We went down mainly for my nan's like birthday. It was her 90th birthday, so we took her out for lunch as a family, and it was really cute, wasn't it?
Yeah, she had a good time.
And then yeah, we just hung out with my family, went on a little bit of a walk. You probably saw a bit of random B-roll of us walking around the lake, and
Saw some birds.
we saw some birds.
Some big birds.
We did see big birds.
Sorry, I'm not used to this videoing thing.
And now we're back home. And of course we listened to the book in the car journey on the way there and back. So now we have finished A Court of Thorns and Roses, book 1 in the ACOTAR series.
I have officially finished A Court of Thorns and Roses.
I feel like before we went down, Farra hadn't even gone under the mountain yet.
I don't think so. I can't remember where we were at. And I also can't remember where we were when we last videoed, if I'm honest. I think, was it just chapter 1? No,
we filmed like
halfway.
just before we left, halfway. Yeah. So I think it was like, yeah, it was before she went under the mountain, before basically everything kicked off.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously I'm sure you'll be familiar with the books if you're watching this, because it's going to be full of spoilers, but obviously Feyre ends up going under the mountain to try and rescue her love, Tamlin, and when she's there she ends up basically being put into a series of trials by Amarantha, who's the big bad, who's basically just wanting to toy with her and play with her. And so yeah, she has these 3 trials, and she has a riddle which if she figures out the riddle, then she just automatically wins for some reason.
It's like the golden snitch. It's like, you do all these trials, but it doesn't really matter, because if you just get the riddle right, then it's all fixed.
So yeah, and then there's lots more interactions with Rhysand as well, under the mountain.
Yes.
Some very questionable interactions with Rhysand that made me cringe a little bit. Made me a bit like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm in a unique position in
the
having...
problematic flag is being waved.
Yeah, I'm in a unique position of having, like, reading it for the first time, but also being kind of passively aware that, like, Rhysand is the main love interest of the series. So given the things that he's done in this book and the way that he generally behaves and treats Feyre, it's just like, ugh, you know? And I'm kind of open-minded to like see how things go and have my mind changed about him. But as it stands at the end of book 1, like, it makes me feel a bit gross to know that like she ends up falling for him and all this stuff, because he did a lot of bad things, and was generally a bit of a bully and a creep.
Kind of sums it up, really. Yeah.
Bit of torture, bit of drugging, coercing her into lap dancing and generally degrading herself in front of loads of people, including the man that she loves. Really messed up. But there we go. I'm excited to see how my mind has changed about Rhysand and how it's all okay. And it was all for the greater good, I'm sure.
Oh dear. I don't
Not
think
messed
there's
up at
much
all.
coming back from that, really, is there? But
Well, that's my view, but apparently there is, so we'll see.
anyway.
Onward to book 2, I suppose.
What did you think of the trials?
They were fun. I mean, there was a giant worm in a maze. Like, what more do you want? That, you know, that she ended up defeating by setting traps with like old bones that were in this big bone pile. It's great. I love it. It's very like, it feels very D&D. You know,
I feel like that was a real tone shift. I feel like it was a very kind of straightforward Beauty and the Beast fairy tale telling, and then we get to Under the Mountain and it's just like, what is going on? There's a giant worm.
I would
There's
say
tasks.
and
it gets really dark as well, I would say that.
it does. That's what I was going to say. Like, I was surprised with the book in general how it was a lot lighter on the romance than I expected, and it was a lot heavier on kind of like dark, harrowing stuff. Like, there was quite a lot of things that were, you know, really bad, which isn't really what I expected. Like, Claire just gets horrifically tortured and killed because she was just because Farah just happened to pull her name out of nowhere when she was like asked what her name was, and so this poor random girl just got abducted by fairies and tortured and killed, and it's pretty dark.
Her body is just hanging there like
crucified.
The whole time. It's horrific.
So that's pretty horrible. And then just the stuff that Beth Farah went through. Anyway, I mean, even with the worm thing, it's like, yeah, she beats it, and she gets this nasty old bone shard just like stabbed through her arm, and then gets thrown back in a cell, and that goes all infected and stuff, and the whole thing's just really grim. So yeah, and then like obviously she dies, doesn't she? Even at the end, in a pretty gruesome way as well. After being forced to like, you know, kill some innocents and stuff. So yeah, loads of really dark stuff. The reason that I pulled a face before when Ellie mentioned the riddle was just because I feel like for Amarantha, who's supposed to be like, I mean, the fact that she's got to the position that she's in implies that she's got some level of intelligence and is like devious and cunning. So I feel like giving her this riddle was completely unnecessary. I mean, she was already being very generous by giving her these 3 trials that was kind of like, it's for my own amusement. I get to watch you suffer and go through all these trials that I know that you're never going to win anyway. Because the third, like, in the end it was rigged. She completes the 3rd trial and she's like, okay, well,
Psych.
Yeah, I said I would free everyone, but I didn't say when, haha, and now I'm just going to torture you to death. She could have just stuck with that, but she threw in the riddle thing and was like, if you solve this riddle that's impossibly difficult, the answer was love, by the way.
I feel like that didn't need to be.
It didn't need to be.
It didn't add anything really,
And then that was just like, yeah, that was a really dumb decision for her to even put that in, because it's just like, if she just took a lucky guess, then everything's over, you know. But anyway, it's a fairy tale-ish fantasy thing. Like, you know, I can suspend disbelief to some degree, but I just feel like that was just a bad play on her part. But there we are.
What did you think about the very ending when they're on the balcony?
What? Oh, when she's talking to Rhysand?
Yeah, like something happens at the very end.
What do you mean something happens at the end?
Oh, you might have zoned out.
Quite possibly. No, I was listening to it, but I can't. They just had a kind of a conversation, didn't they? Like brief exchange.
But he has like a shocked look on his face.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah. I didn't really think. I'm assuming that it's kind of. I'm assuming it's going to be like a. That was the moment he realised he loved her, or something like that. But I don't know what that was.
Mm.
Is that what it was?
What do you think about this? What do you think about the deal that he made with Farra? So with the tattoo and the eye.
Yeah, I mean that was just
talking in the mind thing.
For me, that was kind of in the collection of like bad things that he did that were not really necessary. But
I mean, he needed to use that like bond connection thingy so that he could save her in the trials, because he like talks to her in her mind because he knows that she's illiterate.
Was making a deal the only way for him to do that though? Like, is it not within his power to create some sort of telepathic bond otherwise?
Whatever the author comes up with for her story.
I know. Convenient. Yeah, I guess I feel like that seems like a fairly flimsy excuse for that sort of thing.
And Farra has now made this deal to spend 1 week every month with Rhys.
Yeah. Which I just don't think I'm ever going to be convinced that whole deal thing was like purely benevolent. I think a big part of it is just Rhysand being a bit of a creep and just being like, I just want you, you know, X amount of weeks of the month, combined with just wanting to torment Tamlin because he doesn't like him.
What do you think of Tamlin?
I think it. So again, I'm aware that people don't like him, and I'm sure whatever happens in the second book is going to portray him badly, and Farra is going to be drawn to Rhysand away from Tamlin. So I'm sure he's going to do stuff that's bad. But in this book, like, I don't like him. I've not really been given much of a reason to like him, but I've also not been given much of a reason to dislike him. He's not really kind of done much, I don't feel.
He definitely didn't do much under the mountain, that's all I'm saying.
I mean, to be fair, he kind of wasn't really able to.
Yeah.
He, like, didn't have any powers. And I think, like, his whole thing was not wanting to react to stuff because he kind of didn't really want Amarantha to know how much he cared about Farra, because then she would have A, tormented her more, and B, like, I think he even said it, or it was implied or something, that he was like, didn't want to react at all because he didn't want to give Amarantha any clues as to the types of torment that would bother him more. So he kind of wanted to just, not react, to not make things worse, because I guess he felt like without his powers, he wasn't in a position to do anything. So he was just kind of hoping that Farra could get through the trials, essentially.
So final thoughts, really. Was it what you expected?
No. As I say, I was expecting more on the romance side. I was expecting problematic stuff, but I was expecting problematic things between Tamlin and Farra. I was expecting that there would be this kind of like slight like toxic romance thing going on, which there kind of wasn't. It felt very much like a sort of not like an authentic romance. It felt very much like she's been, like swept away into fairyland, and then she realizes that this guy Tamlin, who's taken her, is actually like nice to her and stuff, and he seems like a decent guy, and then she's kind of like, my life's so much better, like I love this guy.
I feel like before she's even had a chance to figure herself out, because her entire childhood has been trying to keep her family alive,
Yeah.
and she's never had any like positive feedback from her family. She hasn't really had any like real attention or any like love really from her family.
Exactly.
So I feel like as soon as she's put in a situation where she is no longer having to like worry about her life, you know, trying to survive, and someone is actually showing her attention and kindness, she's gonna like latch right onto that, isn't she? She's quite vulnerable in that sense, in that she's gonna just like, you know.
Particularly because you know, it's that sort of power imbalance thing as well. It's like you know, he's extremely powerful and whatever else.
Can protect her for once, because she's always had to be the one that protects her family.
Yeah. So it didn't really feel like that authentic of a romance, but like it did feel kind of like she was always going to fall for him because he's a fairy, and turns out that she thought fairies were really evil, but it turns out they're not necessarily, and he treated her well. So I think that's automatically just like boom, sexy fae sort of thing. But yeah, but it wasn't as romance heavy as I thought. It was kind of like they fall for each other, and then they're in love, and then that's it, sort of thing. And then it's just like into the trials, and obviously the motivation behind the trials was always like, oh, I love Tamlin, I want to save him. But like obviously they weren't really allowed to interact with each other at all throughout that whole thing, because it would have been too dangerous and whatever. So there wasn't really any more romance from that. So yeah, I think it was different. It was definitely different to what I expected.
It was definitely a weird experience for me listening to it for the second time. I've only read these books once, and it was like years ago. So reading back, especially on audio, like I don't think I really gelled very much with the narrator in particular. Like the voice of Farra is very annoying, and she's a protagonist, surprisingly, that I don't actually really enjoy. She's probably my least favourite character out of all the characters in the ACOTAR series, which is really bizarre considering she's the heroine. But the like voice actor as well just made her even more grating. So
it's very breathy,
I definitely didn't enjoy this read through as much as the first read through. But also it's really weird me going back and reading it again, because I have, you know, like I know, like, for the obvious is Rhysand from other books, and the way that I remember him is from, you know, my experiences of him in the other books. So going back and seeing him portrayed as this like real villain character and doing really dark, manipulative, abusive stuff was really weird, and it's made me question like myself, and if I've been getting gaslighting myself.
Don't think too hard about it.
But I'm really interested to go into the next few books and see kind of what both of our experiences are reading it. The battery died, so we just had to go and put a new battery in. I think I was just saying how weird it's been as an experience, me going back and listening to it again on audio, and also just thinking about things. But one thing that I do kind of quite like about this series is that there's never really any one character that you think of as the hero, the good guy, the bad guy. Everybody has like a greyness to them, and all of the characters make mistakes, all of the characters do bad things, and you're like there's never a clear like this is who I'm supposed to be rooting for, aside from Farra, because she's obviously the voice, the person we're in the head of, so obviously it makes sense for you to kind of want to be on her side, even though she is a bit annoying.
I don't mind that. Like I know that, like, you know, you're not the biggest fan of her, and I feel like people generally aren't. But and I can totally see why. But I didn't like dislike her for any reason. I just felt bad for her like the whole time.
Yeah.
For pretty much every reason, and for pretty much everything that happened, I just felt bad for her. It's like this poor girl that's had a really like horrific childhood, and then has like gone into this other world where like things seemed great for a while, and then it's like, nah, it's actually just going to be even more horrific than your childhood, and pretty much everyone that you encounter is going to treat you badly one way or another.
Yeah. One thing that I do like about this though is that this author and in this series, like, they don't shy away from the impact that these things have on characters, which is one thing that I really loved about this. So, you know, this is, like we've said, horrifically dark, and Feyre goes through a lot of traumatic stuff in this book in her life, and she has to deal with that, and we see that on the page. We see it a little bit in this book, but also like going forwards, which is something that I actually really like, because a lot of the time in fantasy you have your hero or heroine going through loads of trauma and doing all of this like horrific stuff, and then coming out the other side and just being like, right, crack on with life, or like, oh, we're gonna have the happy ending now, and it's very much gonna be like a play of like, how is this going to affect you as a
we've actually, in honesty, we have like just started listening to A Court of Mist and Fury, only the first like, I don't know, half an hour or so,
like the first like chapter or something,
but already like it's apparent that like her trauma in the trials and everything else is not gone away, and that's going to be a big part of what's going on, as Ellie was saying, and I agree, I think that's really good, that it's not being shied away from, because I feel like it's one thing having a character endure things that realistically would be traumatic, but not really to kind of explore it, and I think that's fine in the sense of you just kind of want to have like fun adventure type thing or whatever, but I think what's a problem is when you kind of have an implication that somebody's been traumatized by something, have them have a nightmare, and then they're fine. That's the worst of both, because you kind of you say, yeah, they're traumatized, but like they got over it, it's fine, which isn't very, it doesn't send a good message. So have it be explored. I'm sure it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's kind of the point, I think. So it's good that they're doing that, I suppose.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap up this video here, I think, because we have been very rambly in this video. So if you're still watching, thank you so much. I hope you have appreciated hearing our thoughts, particularly Danny's thoughts.
I could go on.
A Court of Roses. And yeah, let us know if you want to hear our thoughts on A Court of Mist and Fury as well, because we can film our thoughts and feelings as we go through that book, if that would be at all of interest to you. So let us know in the comments section down below. You
can find out whether I end up coming around to Team Resend.
I feel like...
Or whether I'm just going to like hold on to these things that he's done and been like, yeah, but this, he did do this.
I mean, I'm interested to see how I feel as well going forwards on a reread. Anyway, I'm going to round up this video now because it's been ages. So thank you so much. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more from us. And do you want to say something?
I was going to say I like Lucien.
Yeah, Lucien's great.
I
like Lucien in the first time.
He's the only character I think that I've just like unequivocally just been like, yeah, he's cool. I like him.
Yeah, he's a
nothing bad to say at all.
Yeah, he's going to be at the ball.
Yeah.
Anyway, goodbye.